The Her Sports Show, live every Wednesday on YouTube and every podcast app.
Hello and welcome to the Her Sports Show, a brand new series bringing you all the latest and breaking news from the world of women's sport. In today's episode, we discuss the main headlines from the world of sport this week, round 2 of the Camogie Championship, Shelbourne FC extending their lead in the Women's National League, Sarah Healy's record-breaking run, as well as Michelle Caffey's retirement. And we have a competition for you. Those of you who are watching can win a Huawei watch GT Runner worth €300. All you have to do to be in with a chance to win is answer the question: which two ladies Gaelic football stars are set to join the AFLW North Melbourne side after this All-Ireland campaign? Thanks for joining us today, Louise, and welcome to the Her Sports Show.
No problem, Eve. Thanks so much for having me.
We're delighted to have you on, and we'll dive right into the newspaper headlines today. So, starting with the Irish Independent, Stephanie Meadows is hoping to roll back the years in this week's $10 million US Women's Open and show the putting form that helped her finish third on her debut in the biggest event in women's golf at Pine Needles. Stephanie struggled to keep her tour card in 2019 and 2021, but she's 62nd in the LPGA rankings this year. Over in athletics, Healy smashes O'Sullivan's Irish under-23 record. Sarah Healy produced a superb performance to smash Sonia O'Sullivan's Irish under-23 1500 metre record at the World Athletics Continental Tour Gold Meeting in Ostrava in the Czech Republic, finishing in 6th with a time of 4:02.86. Sarah Healy was 5th at the under-23 European cross country recently in December, and also had a 2nd place at the Irish National cross country championship. So it's an exciting time for Sarah Healy. Did you manage to see any of the news about Sarah and breaking Sonia O'Sullivan's record?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw mainly the highlights, but it's just kind of continuing on the pattern of like success in Irish athletics at the moment. And it's great to see Sonia O'Sullivan's record being broken, because I don't know about you, but she was kind of like the iconic woman in sport when we were growing up. So it's like, not only do we just have Sonia O'Sullivan, but we have like everyone in every like in other sports as well. And it's just like Sarah Healy's just another person. Like, she doesn't have to be the Sonia O'Sullivan, because we have so many. Yeah,
no, it's great. Like there's been people that have been really pushing to try and break some of Sonia's records. Ciara McGean has picked up a couple of those records in recent times, but Sarah Healy certainly has demonstrated her talent since she was a junior. And I know she was talking about going to the Olympics, quite a young athlete to go to the Olympics, and then success at European cross country is showing kind of her development as an athlete. But fantastic news for her, and there's so much more to come. As they said, like the depth in Irish athletics at the moment is phenomenal. You have the likes of Rashida Adeleke is flying at the moment, and Molly Scott as well.
Yeah, more world records like going around, and just great to see from the Irish women.
Yeah, fantastic results. In the Irish Times, they also had this story of Sarah Healy breaking Sonia's long-standing 1500 metre record. And then in both newspapers as well, there was stories about Coco Gauff. So in the Times, the Coco Gauff story goes into looking back at Roland Garros last year, where Gauff failed to reach her first Grand Slam title, where she was defeated in the quarterfinal by the eventual victor Barbara Krejcikova. Her mentality shift this year seems to be yielding a positive result on the court. So we look forward to the next couple of days as this competition continues. It's great to see, like, she's been a phenomenal athlete, very, very young as well. So more young talent in tennis, but someone that's very exciting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, you can see the influence that people before her have had on her. Like, she just seems so able to like deal with pressure and with what comes with being a professional like athlete, and she's great to watch as well. Like, and she's so young yet. Like, there's just so much in her.
Yeah, no, she's always like pushing the boundaries, and hopefully we see some exciting matches over the next couple of months. Wishing her the best as she progresses through this competition. But someone that has been in the limelight for like quite a long period of time, like at the top level in tennis from 15, which a lot of us couldn't even fathom competing at that level. But tennis is a very exciting sport. With some other news, we have the Irish para swimmers are set to compete in the World Championships in Madeira, including Nicole Turner, Ellen Keane, Roisin Ní and Amy Sheridan. Ellen is going to follow out the team there. They've gone out to camp, but she has COVID, so she's recovering from that at the moment, and will follow out once she's in the all clear. And as well as that, her fellow Dancing with the Stars star, Nina Carberry, is joining Ireland's Fittest Family following Dervla O'Rourke has stepped down from it this year. She's very, very busy woman, so Nina is going to take up the mantle there. Did you tune into either, or do you tune into either of the shows?
Yeah, I thought it was great that the amount of athletes on Dancing with the Stars. You can see the where their advantages come in, being so fit already. And I thought Ellen was just great on it. And God bless her, she's still testing negative for COVID, and she's just, I don't know if you follow her on Instagram, but she's just kind of documenting it. And it's just like nightmare time having avoided it this whole time, and her training is just getting back up and running after Dance with the Stars. It's just like so unfortunate, but hopefully she tests negative and can follow them out soon.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think she's managed to avoid it thus far, and she definitely seems disappointed that she'd be delayed going out to the World Championships, but she'll obviously be delighted that she can head out and compete, and you know, hopefully we see that she's able to compete in top form. You know, obviously difficult to guess how she will be coming back from COVID, but yeah, looking forward to seeing how Nina gets on in Ireland's Fittest Family. She certainly was like the underdog in Dancing with the Stars, but like she was so good. And I interviewed Rachel Blackmore earlier this year, and she was talking about, she's like, Nina can't dance. She's like, Nina can't dance at all. But this was a couple of episodes in. And then she was just saying kind of like when people are out and about, like as opposed to the kind of traditional dancing, which she absolutely nailed, like she was so good. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what she's like in Ireland's Fittest Family as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to see the mantle being passed on to another female athlete. You know, they could have brought in someone who's someone who's well used to TV, but they're bringing someone in that, I don't know, it's good to give them a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. People get to know her a bit more, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I always love tuning into Ireland's Fittest Family, so we'll see what that's like this year. In terms of the Camogie Championship, there's been lots of action. So in round 2, Waterford beat Wexford with 318 to 9 points. There's a win for Cork, 217, overcoming Clare with 2 goals and 5 points. A draw for Dublin and Tipperary with 10 points each. A draw for Down and Antrim, a goal and 12 points apiece as well. A win for Galway with 2 goals and 12 points to Offaly's 1 goal 6. And Kilkenny beat Limerick with a score of 121 to 6 points. Did you catch any of the action over the weekend?
Yeah, I did. Galway was the one I was backing now, but they're an easy team to back at the moment. Yeah, there was a lot going on. It's just the kind of the big score lines are an interesting one, and we'll see it get more competitive as it goes on. But it was good to have it all back up and running at the first time normal, for the first time being a bit normal in the last few years. So looking forward to it as it goes on.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, say that Waterford-Wexford game is 3 goals, 18 points to 9 points. Like, that is obviously tough from Wexford's perspective, where you know, they're struggling to be competitive. But as you said, maybe as the competition continues, we'll see the scorelines getting closer and closer. But then a couple of draws there as well between Dublin and Tip and Down and Antrim, and I believe we saw a couple of draws in the last round as well. So it's good to see that obviously some games are very, very competitive, so much so that they actually can't come out with a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just caught the highlights of the Dublin game, and it looked like it was a great match to be watching live. Yeah, but we're looking forward to seeing how they get on again.
Absolutely. In terms of the Women's National League, Shelbourne beat Cork City 4-0. Galway overcame DLR Waves 1-0. Treaty United and Sligo Rovers had a 0-0 draw, with Wexford Youths overcoming Athlone Town 2-1. And Bohemians 2-1 to Peamount United. So there's lots of action going on in Women's National League. You know, we've another several weeks of this competition. It seems that Shelbourne are really performing strongly at the moment, and Athlone Town had a good run of it there for a while. I think they had 4 or 5 consecutive wins. So interesting to see that Wexford Youths overcame them last week.
Yeah, Wexford Youths always had a sort of a strong background, but it was interesting to see Athlone coming up the ranks and getting the few wins behind them. But yeah, I'm always pleasantly surprised by the Women's National League. It's always, yeah, it'll be good to see how it goes on. And again, it's just great. It's just great to have it all back up and running, and looking forward to seeing how it ends.
Yeah, Wexford Youths, obviously, as you said, like, they are a really strong team, and Ellen Malloy is involved in that outfit. She's certainly one of the Irish stars and future Irish stars, like, as she further breaks into the Irish senior squad. But yeah, it was really exciting to see Athlone have success for a couple of weeks there, and kind of shows the you know, the strength and development of their team. So I think they might shake things up a little bit. But it does seem that Shelbourne are putting in a strong performance at the moment, seemingly a bit untouchable.
Yeah, that is what it looks like, and you do want the more of like, you do want to see the likes of Athlone coming up and competing, because it often comes down to the final two again, like Peamount, Shelburne, Wexford. Like you see the same names again and again, and you want to see that competition. And even with the likes of Sligo having their new team, the women's team, that's great to see new teams coming out and like getting that bit further along and doing that bit better than they would have previously.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem that the excitement is kind of building within Women's National League, and as you said, like things might get mixed up over the next couple of years as teams continue to develop and build on the efforts that they've put in over the past few years. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how that goes. Obviously, we've several weeks of that ahead, so we'll keep people updated with what's going on in Women's National League. And we're going to get into the main topic today, which is Michelle Claffey's retirement. So tell us a bit about this, Louise.
Yeah, so it's probably not a huge surprise to people, just because it kind of follows in the wake of people retiring after failing to qualify for the World Cup. So basically, Michelle Claffey she ended with 14 caps. She has after called her retirement from international rugby there, but she'll still be playing for Leinster and still captaining Blackrock. But yeah, it's a big loss to Ireland, I think, as she's one of the players who had the few caps built up. Like she was on 11 before this Six Nations. So she was someone there. So I think it is a loss to Ireland in terms of experience, but saying that, she'll still be there in Leinster and Blackrock, and she's in the same club as Maeve O'Leary and Michelle's the captain. So I'm sure we'll still see her insight, and she'll be able to sort of help the next generation along. Like she's been there for a long time. Yeah, so I think it's not a shock, but it is a loss.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there has obviously been a lot of people that have retired in the last kind of year or two, and she's 34 years old, and I know she's experienced a couple of injuries over the years as well, but great to see that she'll still be involved with Leinster and Blackrock, and as many of the others who have retired from the Irish setup, they are looking to support the team that they have left and continue to support them with advice and any kind of development that they can. She had shared a post on Twitter announcing that she's stepping away from international duties, saying, "Ireland, you've been incredible. Thank you for the memories, the laughs, the highs, and not so much the lows. Representing your country is an amazing privilege and honour, and I love the experience. Thank you to all the people who made it what it was." So, obviously for anyone to represent their country, like it's a huge honour. So, for her to be able to do that 14 times, I'm sure it'd be something she's incredibly proud of.
Yeah, and I'd say she's satisfied to be going out now, like on her own terms, having come off the bench twice during the Six Nations, uninjured. That is a good way to go. Like she wasn't pushed, she wasn't forced due to injury or anything else. So I'd say she was happy to have the 2 games under her belt, have 2 good games, and then go back strong for club and province.
Absolutely. The international squad it's a very young team now. Some of the most cap people are going to be the likes of Avon Parsons. Obviously Emer Considine is still involved in that setup with more experience. We have a lot of sevens players that have experience on the sevens side of things, but sometimes maybe not the 15s. I believe Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe's first cap for 15s or second cap for 15s was this year. Obviously has loads of experience on the seven side of things, but how big an impact do you think this will have on camp in terms of more of the older athletes and experience leaving the Irish setup?
I think any player in an international camp is going to see this as an opportunity for them to fill her spot, whether that's on the bench or on the pitch. I think they'll all be sad to see her go and see her leadership and her experience and openness there. Like that will definitely be a loss to them. But I think at the end of the day, they're all looking to get game time, and that's one less person to compete with for it.
You looked at it with a very ruthless perspective there, very honest opinion. But yeah, look, absolutely. Everybody is pushing to get onto the team, and we know that from following the Six Nations. Like there's lots of people that are trying to get in and prove that they deserve to be there and that they deserve to be consistently on the pitch. So there's loads of young talent coming up. It's really exciting to be watching the Irish rugby team develop at the moment. Who are your top 3 favourites to watch at the moment? I'm probably being a bit too influenced by the sevens going on at the moment, but I think Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe and Lucy Mulhall are just having and Eve Higgins are having just the games of their lives at the moment. So I just think they're great to watch, and obviously Bevan Parsons is there,
And I also actually just want to say Hannah O'Connor as well. I think she was flying during the Six Nations and probably didn't get enough of a shout out for that. But I just think they're all great to watch, and there's a lot of promise in the Irish women's rugby team. And it's just a matter of getting game time and getting out there a little bit more. I think they would obviously prefer a little bit more game time themselves, but it's kind of a wait and see, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think Eve stood out in the Six Nations, like from you know, the tournament this year versus last year. Like, she seems like an athlete who's really, really developing and coming into her own. So yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the international events over the coming months, and definitely to Six Nations next year, because it seems like a team that, as you said, has huge potential to develop. So yeah, sevens, it keeps us excited for the next couple of months. Certainly very interesting, and unfortunate to end up claiming the fourth position there recently, but you know, we obviously saw a silver medal not so long ago.
Absolutely, yeah, and the bronze as well. So I'm sure they were disappointed, but there's a lot to build on there, and they have a lot of room left to grow, I think, and they'll all be pushing for a goal soon enough.
In terms of the World Cup, obviously we missed out in qualification there. There will be no autumn series, so what do you kind of see the focus for the 15s being?
I'd say the Interpros haven't actually been announced yet, but I'm sure that will be their chance to shine and show what they can do. There, of course, it will only be the 3 matches, but it does give a good chance to be a little bit more elite, a little bit more, just another level up, and puts you on a different stage compared to just playing club. Yes, they'll be looking for that, but again, we're kind of waiting for that to be announced. So.
Thanks so much, Louise, for joining us today. We're delighted to have you on. Coming up next, we caught up with one of Ireland's latest world champions, Lisa O'Rourke. We talked to her about claiming gold, training with her sister Aoife, playing football for Roscommon, and her role models in sport. Good morning, Lisa. It's so great to have you on the show, and a huge congratulations after your World Championship win recently.
Thanks very much. I'm delighted to be here.
Tell us a bit about that win. It's obviously a phenomenal achievement for you, and you're still so young, really just starting out in your career.
Yeah, so basically up until the week before the World Championships, I didn't find out that I was selected. So it was late notice, but obviously I wasn't saying no to it. And my aim was to go in and win my first fight and try and soak in all the experience and take much out of it as I could, because I knew I was so young and all the athletes were going to be top class at world level. But then, yeah, I won my first fight and then went on to the next and the next, and just took one at a time. And the next thing, I was on top of the podium. It was definitely one of the best feelings ever. I never thought I'd get it, like, at my first ever elite international competition. So yeah, it's definitely very memorable for me now.
That's amazing. Did you kind of have a bit of a relaxed attitude, maybe because you're going in just to experience it and soak it all in? Do you think that helped maybe settle the nerves?
Yeah, it probably did at the start. The nerves weren't. I was just trying to enjoy it, because I knew was lacking in experience at elite level. So I was just trying to soak in as much as I could. And then, yeah, the nerves were probably a bit more relaxed. And probably when I got to the quarter final and I got a medal, I knew I had put in hard work and just as much as the other girls. So I was like, I'm in for it too. And just, yeah. Yeah.
No, a fantastic result, and we're all delighted for you here. It's obviously amazing, yourself and Amy Broadhurst both coming home with gold, and now doubling the total number of World Championship wins for Irish women. What's that like?
Yeah, it's nice to be down now in the history books. Along with Amy, we're very good friends. So yeah, she well deserved it. She's been going, that was her 5th World Championship. So it was about time. She needed the result. Yeah, but to be alongside Kellie and Katie, 2 top athletes and 2 top role models for every girl in the sport and outside the sport. So to have your name down beside theirs is huge.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and you know, they've done so much for the sport, and it's great to see Irish women's boxing at the forefront at the moment. Like, it's incredible what the team is doing at the moment. In terms of when you get called out as world champion, you hear your name, what was that experience like?
I keep forgetting that it was the world's and that it was elite, but when at the moment I was just couldn't believe it. I was like, it was just didn't sink in for ages, and I remember doing an interview after and I couldn't even get my words out. I just wanted to see my sister because she was on the team and she was so happy for me too, and it was just definitely the best feeling ever.
Yeah, what's it like fighting alongside your sister? And obviously she was at the Olympics in Tokyo. It must be really, great to be able to train together and experience those things together.
Yeah, I only really got called up when she was going to the Olympics as her sparring partner, and I've been training up then with her since that. But it's definitely huge having her by my side. Just especially even when you're away from home for 5 weeks, to have a family member is definitely an advantage. And yeah, I know we get along great. We didn't kill each other in the room for 5 weeks, so that's a bonus. But no, I look up to Aoife a lot, and always will. And she's been a huge part of this journey too, and I was delighted to have her by my side. But yeah, she's great.
Well, I'm sure you've had plenty of practice at home, not killing each other.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put two people rooming together, you're probably going to do okay.
Yeah.
In terms of all the sports that you're involved in, like you've tried your hand at a couple of different things, and I believe you're still playing football at the moment. So how do you manage it all, and then how did you come to kind of really put a focus on boxing?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to juggle it all, but I love the team sport as well. Like in boxing, you're kind of in the ring by yourself. Obviously, you have your coaches and support outside the ring, but you're in there, and whatever you do, you done that. Like it's down to yourself a lot. But no, I love playing with the girls of Roscommon ladies. They're a great bunch of girls, and hopefully we've Kildare next weekend. So hopefully we'll get on a win. It's a good start to the championship. But yeah, I play basketball too, along Aoife does too, and that's more of a hobby. But yeah, we love sport. We like to keep busy, and boxing, it'll always come first. I think it's just what we most love about it. We just love it that it's you that does it, and it's all down to yourself on the day of what you do.
Yeah, no, that's amazing to be able to juggle everything. What's it like playing at county level and then also going off to represent Ireland at elite level in boxing?
Yeah, I suppose county level is the highest level in Ireland really for Gaelic football. So it is nice to be up there with some of the best footballers. But no, I love playing the Gaelic, and I don't think I'll ever pack it in fully. I'll always be there part of my life and in my sport. And yeah, mother wouldn't let me pack it in anyway. Part, yeah.
If Ciara McGeehan hears this now, she's a big camogie fan, and I'm sure she'd love to be running and playing camogie as well. So she'll have to take inspiration from you. In terms of your role models, there's so many people for you to look up to, but who would they have been throughout your life?
Definitely Katie from the start. Katie, suppose she's an inspiration to every athlete who's not doing boxing even. She's huge to just the amount she's achieved for girls and women in sport. She's just class. So definitely Katie would be one of the top, and then obviously training alongside Kellie and watching her win gold at the Olympics last year was definitely an inspiration to watch her, and she deserved every bit of it. So to train alongside her was class. And then obviously my sister, just to see her from growing, because she hasn't been in the sport even that long, and she was kind of probably thrown in the deep end, starting at such an old, like she started old, if you get me. So like she started at 16, 17. So she was thrown in at girls that had 5 to boxing since they're 11. So definitely watching how much she's grown and how much she's achieved has inspired me a lot. Yeah.
And what's next on the agenda for you? So you're walking away as world champion in 2022. What are the goals?
I'm definitely going to keep enjoying the moment at the moment, but the Europeans are down for in October, so that's our next major competition. So we're back up in Dublin training in 2 weeks or that, and yeah, we'll be back in focus. We'll be back focused, and hopefully we'll be going to the Europeans in October.
In terms of sport for girls and women, twice as many girls drop out of sport as boys by the age of 14. What would your words of wisdom be as someone that's managed to juggle it all as far as 20 in terms of encouraging girls to stay in sport?
Yeah, I suppose just always would love to encourage girls to keep playing sport, especially once you leave school. It tends that when girls give it up, but just find something you love and that you're able to dedicate yourself to and that you enjoy, which is the most important part. And just find something, and if you give your commitment and dedication, I do believe that you'll get results and you'll be rewarded. So if you put in the hard work, you'll definitely get the results. And yeah.
Some good advice. That's great, Lisa. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat to us this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, thanks very much for having me.
Welcome back. A quick reminder that you're watching the Her Sport Show, Ireland's #1 source for news and entertainment on women's sport. I'm delighted to say that I'm now joined by Cathal Dennehy. We have had exciting results with Sarah Healy breaking the under 23 1500 metre record that was previously held by Sonia. What are your thoughts on that, Cathal?
I mean, that was a brilliant run. Sarah's anyone who kind of followed Irish athletics or even Irish sport to a relative extent in recent years would have heard the name Sarah Healy ever since she won kind of 2 under-18 European titles. It was must have been about 2017 now when she won those. And yeah, she's had an up and down transition, as pretty much everyone does, to the senior ranks. Made the Olympics last year, had a kind of a poor year by her standards coming out of the junior category, coming out of under 20s back in 2020, and then kind of got back, I suppose, on the momentum train in 2021, made the Olympics, had a disappointing Olympics again for her, felt that the kind of stage had got to her a bit. And then I guess her races this year have been quite up and down. It's quite difficult in the position she's in now, because if you have a slightly off kilter run, she's competing at the very best meets. Like, she was in the Birmingham Diamond League, she was at the gold level continental tour there in Ostrava last night. And if you don't get it right on that stage, it can look very grim and you can be spat out the back of the pack very quickly, which has happened to her a couple of times this year. But I think it was brilliant to see her bounce back yesterday. I mean, Sonia Sullivan, her previous personal best for 1500 was 4:06.9, and she's taken over 4 seconds off that last night to run 4:02.86. And I mean, to break Sonia Sullivan's record had stood, I think it was 31 years. I think it was 1991 Sonia ran that. And it was one of the last underage records that Sonia had. And she didn't just beat it, she absolutely smashed it. I mean, she took 3 seconds off it. Now, obviously, I suppose we qualify all this by saying that like times have moved on in terms of spike technology is much better these days than it was in Sonia's day. Tracks are better. So, but I mean, still to break one of Sonia Sullivan's national records at under 23 level by 3 seconds bodes very, very well for Sarah Healy's future. And I mean, it was a qualifier for the World Championships, it was a qualifier for the Europeans, all in one fell swoop, and it was a massive personal best. And I suppose 4 minutes for female 1500 meter running, 4 minutes is the kind of benchmark. If you can get to 4 minutes flat or under 4 minutes, you're talking you'll be able to qualify or very much on the cusp of qualifying for either a world or Olympic final. And now Sarah is only like a little over 2 seconds away from that. So yeah, it bodes very well for her if she can reproduce that kind of form come like the World Championships. There's no reason she can't be thinking, she's not going to be contending for medals with a time around that, but she's going to be on the cusp of qualifying for final if she can reproduce that kind of run come the World semi-finals in July. And then at the Europeans, you're talking, there's no reason she can't be thinking of a final. Again, the medals, even at European level these days, are kind of down, and the kind of, maybe they won't be won in 3:55, but it'll be athletes who can kind of run around 3:55-ish for 1500 meters would be the kind of benchmark. But again, Sarah's only 21, so to have run 4:02 at the age of 21 is just remarkable and very much on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, no, she's definitely had, a really good junior career, and I spoke to her as well about that kind of transition and You know, I think in terms of her second place at the national cross country and then a fifth place at under 23 European cross country, like they're obviously two good results and two results that she was happy with. But in terms of getting that consistency and also like some of these inconsistent results can kind of damage confidence, like, you know, where does she go from here and how do you build that confidence so that you maybe don't get too daunted by that world stage?
Yeah, I think it's just experience. I mean, Usain Bolt used to always say that he was terrified. He was basically shitting himself when he ran the World Under-20 Championships were held in Jamaica back in 2002, I think. And it was his first kind of time on the, I suppose, the global stage. He was only 16 or 17 and he won the World Under-20 title in front of, like, I think it was 40,000 Jamaican fans who were screaming. And he said he was never more terrified in any Olympic final that came later, or never more nervous than he was on that stage at home in front of the fans, with everyone expecting and screaming his name. But I think the lesson in that is that once you put yourself through that ringer once, no matter how terribly it might go, you come out of it better and you come out of it more experienced with how to handle those nerves. And Sarah was one of the most refreshing interviews at the Tokyo Olympics, because normally, you know, we might sit in the media and the mixed zone and kind of suspect that an athlete who came in good form has, I suppose the term is bottled it, which is an awfully harsh thing to say on the sidelines. But I suppose the real breakdown of that would be that they've let the whole pressure and the anxiety of the experience get to them a little bit. And Sarah came through and she was just brutally honest and said, like, I let it get to me, you know, I let the stage get to me. She didn't produce her best. And she didn't actually have a bad run, but she's an athlete who's very hard on herself, always. Even if she wins silver, you know, she's thinking, could have been better. But that's a big part of the reason she's as good as she is. And I think, yeah, having gone through that Olympic experience, as tough as it was for her, will have just conditioned her that when she's next at the World Championships in July, she'll feel much more at home and she'll just feel like, yeah, I've been here before. And also, I suppose, feel like she now belongs. You know, she was like, some of the world-class Ethiopians were only 3 seconds ahead of her, 2 seconds ahead of her last night. And the fact that you're seeing really good athletes just up the road from you, it helps you go into these championships and think, actually, I'm not different to them. You know, I've raced them on the circuit. I've been just behind them on the circuit, and I can be just behind them or up with them again on the global stage. So I think it's obviously something that is tough to deal with when you get to that level, especially as a young athlete. I mean, she was only 20 when she lined up in Tokyo. And obviously pandemic put a halt to all the racing for a good year. So I think it'll definitely help her going forward. Yeah, exactly. And I think what we saw in some of her kind of less impressive races so far this year was that maybe just a little mental lapse. And again, this is nothing harsh, because this is something she'd probably say herself, is that, you know, at the kind of the tough point of a 1500 is around 800 to 1200. It's kind of the 2/3 marker, because that's when it starts getting, the pain is at its maximum and you're still a long way from the finish. So you really have to dig in. And that's been the point at times this year where we saw her start to lose touch with some of the leading packs when she wasn't having her best runs. And you could see at times when she got into the last 200, she had a kick, she had something left in the tank. And I think what we saw last night in Ostrava was that she really dug in that kind of 60-70% of the way into the race and held contact. And then, I mean, Sarah always comes home really strong. And so I think now that she's had a race like that, where she's, I suppose, shown that, you know, she's mentally tough enough to really dig in at that toughest point of the race, it'll do absolute wonders for her confidence going forward. And the next time she gets back on the line with these world-class athletes, I'm sure she will be far less intimidated than I'm sure she might have been in the past.
Absolutely. In terms of the summer, it's certainly going to be exciting. You know, in terms of that time, like 4:02, she's hot on the heels of Ciara McGean, someone who's also broken some of Sonia O'Sullivan's records. So it's shaping up to be a really interesting summer for the Irish in 1500.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Ciara's kind of opener to the season was probably one of the most underappreciated runs, and that was purely because she finished second to Louise Shanahan. But I mean, Ciara ran a 1:59 800 meters, and you know, had to do the hard work herself that day, towing, I suppose, Louise Shanahan, you know, 750 meters into the 800 meters. But I think it was their second fastest ever opener for 800 meters, once in 2020, which was a weird season because it started like in August. She broke the national record her first time out. But to do that in May, you know, when you're talking, Ciara would have been 80 to 90% ready at that point. She would have been just doing it off base work and training, is a very, very good sign. And she backed that up with a 2:01. and Belfast last weekend. So Ciara is in brilliant form, and I think back in 2019, which is her best season ever, I think she opened with a 2:01. So to open with a 1:59, on the road to the next World Championships 3 years later bodes very well, given that she got into that World Final in 2019. And again, the standard, we should say, is just through the roof at global level. There's athletes running 3:51, 3:52, 3:53, and that's where the medalists are going to come from. But there's no reason Ciara can't be looking at it now and thinking, well, one, get into the world final first of all, but then once you're in that 12-woman finals, try and just improve on that placing, and get up to maybe the top 7 or 8 positions, which just be a remarkable achievement for Ciara. And yeah, I mean, the competition even at nationals will be brilliant to see, because we knew Sarah was going to be a rival to Ciara, as good as Ciara was. I mean, she beat her over 800 meters a few years back when she was very young, probably only 17 or 18 up in Belfast. But now they're kind of both at an age where I suppose they both come of age. And Sarah, yeah, that'll be a brilliant domestic rivalry, and it'd be brilliant to see them kind of toe the line together or in their separate heats in the Irish kit and the international stage.
Yeah, no, there's certainly lots going on in Irish athletics at the moment. Obviously, Rashida over in the States is doing some really good stuff there across multiple distances, and then Molly Scott has had some really good runs recently too.
Yeah, I mean, Molly Scott's indoors there was remarkable, and bodes very well for what she can do over 100 meters outdoors. It'd be interesting to see if she does choose to go back to the hurdles at any point, because that was her kind of first love, I suppose. And yeah, I mean, what Rashida has done is just absolutely remarkable. I mean, all the sprinters kind of knew this. Phil Healy and the rest of them would kind of have said it, that they knew whatever records they set were going to be blown away once Rashida kind of reached full maturity. She's still not there. She's still only 19, Rashida. But I mean, she's broken the 60 meters record, the 200 meters record, the 300 and the 400 national records. I mean, there's a real sense at Rashida that she's just getting started. I mean, Phil still holds the 100 meter record, but that looks to be living on borrowed time once Rashida gets the right weather conditions and the right race and actually runs, I suppose, 100 meters, because she's been kind of focusing on 400 during the collegiate system, and I'm sure will again at the NCAAs, which are about 2 weeks away now. But yeah, Rashida, I mean, yeah, what she has done is just remarkable at the age of 19, especially. She's already, I think, in that category where she will and can be a European finalist. I don't know if the Europeans are in August this year, and given Rashida has been racing since March, I'd find it perhaps a bit unlikely that she will continue racing that long, given it's going to be a long season. But I don't think there's any reason she wouldn't be going to the World Championships in Eugene. She's qualified for both the 200 and the 400, and she can run the 4x4 as well. So yeah, I think Rashida is, she's a budding star for Ireland. And again, the standard is just sick at global level. But like I was saying recently, she finished the time she ran recently for 400 would have placed her 4th or 5th in the Olympic semi-finals last year for 400. So you're talking if she can maybe, and that was her first outdoor 400 meter competition ever. She'd only ever run relays before. So to have debuted like that over 400 and the way she's running over 200, you'd have to imagine Rashida, if she freshens up and goes into it, because she'd already run a relay that day as well when she ran that 400 meter time. So you would have to imagine Rashida is capable of going low 50 seconds in the right conditions, going into it with a taper from training. And I mean, if she's running in that territory, you're talking, there's no reason she can't be in like that 8-woman world final. Probably would take going under 50 seconds to get into a world final. But the fact that at the age of 19, she's at least probably knocking on the door of that level, again, just bodes so promisingly for what's ahead in her career.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. Like, she's managing to do it across multiple distances. So I think, as you said, some of it is like right times, right conditions, and obviously what she herself is gonna focus on. In terms of the national championships, it's the 150th national championships this year. If you had to pick 3 athletes for people to watch out for, who would they be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess it depends who comes home. I mean, Rashida will be home at that point, so you have to start with her. Because, yeah, I mean, again, if there's anyone in Irish athletics who can kind of transcend the sport and sort of enter that category where, they're on first name terms with the Irish public, the way a Sonia or Katrina was, or a Derval O'Rourke was as well, it is Rashida, and hopefully she can get there in the future. So yeah, I'd say come out to watch her. And then beyond that, I mean, you're down to the usual stars of Irish athletics. Thomas Barr has won God knows how many. Oh, good. Thomas Barr has won God knows how many national titles at this stage, so he'll be another to watch. I mean, he'll cruise to victory, obviously, at the national championships, and then beyond him, trying to think now. I think I suppose I will say in general, the women's middle distance is going to be outstanding because it kind of depends that sometimes athletes have to race nationals unless they have a medical exemption, but they kind of have the freedom to race what they want. So you might see some of the 800 meter runners running the 1500. You might see some of the 1500 meter runners stepping down or moving up the 5K or whatever, just to kind of mix it up or to maybe dodge their big competitors sometimes. So I think the women's 8 and the women's 15, depending on who runs what, you're talking Louise Shanahan, Nadia Power's just coming back from a stress fracture, so hard to know what shape she'll be in. But yeah, Ciara Mageean and Sarah Healy both flying. So I think amongst that kind of crop of athletes, you've Georgie Hartigan as well in there who's flying at the moment. So amongst Schieffer, Clary Butner. So amongst that crop, depending on which way they go, if a lot of them end up in the same race at nationals, that could be the race of the weekend.
Yeah, in terms of the middle distance, it was really exciting last year in the 800. Like there was 5 or 6 athletes down at, really, really similar times. So something we're certainly looking forward to seeing how it shapes up this year. And obviously the 1500 with Ciara and Sarah going head to head in that. I know you mentioned Molly earlier. So in terms of Molly Scott, she had a stellar start to 2022, breaking the national record in the 60 metres. In terms of the hurdles, I know it's something that she said she hasn't given up on yet, but I think she's really, really motivated to be competitive in that 60 metres and probably over the 100 as well. So we'll see how that goes for her. But we caught up with Molly to talk about this achievement as well as how hyper-competitiveness can be misjudged as bitchiness within women's athletics.
Hi, my name is Molly Scott. You're listening to Her Life, Her Style, Her Sport. From a very early age, like I knew what I wanted to do. Like I remember, like I watched like the Olympics. I watched Shelly Ann Fraser run in 2008. I must have been only 9. My mom called me inside to watch the race, and I just was like, that's what I want to do. It's actually been a really crazy year. I finished, obviously, my final year was through the pandemic. I kind of knew during the summertime that I wasn't going to make Tokyo and that I wasn't anywhere near the qualification. So I decided to do the King's Inn exams at the end of August. So when I competed at the European Under-23s in Tallinn in the middle of July, I just came home, studied all summer. I made a plan that I definitely wanted a breakthrough year. I also passed the exams, luckily, so I got to start King's Inn in September, and I'm doing the course part-time. Balancing both has been interesting. I find sometimes one gets a little more time than effort than the other, but you kind of have to, work around that. Breaking the national record when I did break them, it meant a lot to me because it was like, that's what me and my mom did, like solely together, like on our own. Like we ran a time, like we're running times that are as good as other girls in Europe and other girls in the world. So for it to all come together, and from the work that we put in from age 10 and 11, sometimes like my mom has to act differently. Sometimes when we go into a season, we'll say, okay, well, for the next 6 weeks, I'm your coach, I'm not your mother, and you're my athlete. And that's the sacrifice that we have to do to make it work, because like there's not 10 other like national sprints coaches there with the same expertise as my mother. So it's just the decision that we decided to make. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that the reason I love doing athletics is because I get to do it with my mom, and because we get to like do it together as a team and create something special for each other. But even my mom, when I was a kid, like when I was 12, she brought me to a race in Scotland, and I think it was in Kelvin Hall, and she just pushed me to run against British girls, because she was like, if you're not up there with them, like what's the point? But like so I competed against British girls and athletes like my whole, like since I was 12, 13, and the experience I got, I think was like it was so worthwhile, because when I got to a bigger European and world stage, it just became the norm for me. When I first broke the record, like I wasn't really expecting to do that. Like I wanted to run just underneath 7:30. Like that's what I was expecting from training, and then to run 7:23, it meant so much to me, and it felt at the time, like at the beginning of the season, like such an incredibly fast time. I've said this before, like I had painted 7:19 on the back of my phone in gold at the very beginning of January, like before even the season had began. Like that was the time that I wanted to run. The target will definitely be Paris. I'll be 25 then, so that's a perfect age. Tokyo for both my mom and me, we just knew it was just that little bit out of reach, but I feel like I'm about 2 or 3 years behind on some people again, because I wasn't doing like the same training as other people. I might be a bit of like a late bloomer in regards to like sprinting and like doing the actual work that I need to do, and that I understand what I need to do. When you're doing a sport at the same time, it can be taken away from you the next day. So I think it's really important to have like other passions, other like hobbies outside of the sport you do. Banking everything on a sport is not always the best idea, and it's definitely not my sport the most lucrative either. Yeah, I said before that giving up is so cliched, I guess. Yeah, I did fail my first ever assignment, and I think I got 12% or something like this, and I was distraught. I was like, this isn't for me. I was 6 weeks into my course, and I really wanted to quit. But I remember I was like standing at the photocopier, and I was like almost in tears, and this woman was like, are you okay? And I started talking to her. And then it turns out she was a final year law student, and she gave me loads of advice, and she gave me loads of help, and was like, no, keep going, like it's gonna work out, you're gonna be fine. And by the time I got to final year, then I was almost hitting the 70s. So I'd went from like failing and getting like 12 and 30% to sticking at it. And then with athletics, I've asked people this question before. I was like, have you ever thought about quitting? And some people say no. And I was like, yeah, of course I've thought about quitting a couple of times. Sometimes when you're sitting in an airport in the middle of like Eastern Europe somewhere on your own, and you ran like 11:90 in the 100, and you're just questioning your whole life, and that it's not worth it. But then the highs and the lows of it are also what makes it worth it. We have like this long glass table in our house. Like it's probably about 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters, and me and my mom are always like, that's the gap between like me and like Mary Beth St. Price or Mika Briscoe, that one, like that's 7-0, and then there's 7-20. That's it. It's the length of the table in your kitchen. But what does it take to close that gap? Like, what does it take? It takes an awful lot of time and effort and sacrifice. It always seemed like a shameful thing when I was younger for my parents to push me, or for my parents wanting me to be good at something. In Ireland, you kind of have this like, the whole like the begrudgedness of like success and stuff like that. Like you only have to go to your local sports club or something like that, and you can find out pretty soon, a story like that. So when I was a kid, it was often, I had comments like, you should go home and play with your dollies. Like you shouldn't have your kid training at the track. And my parents almost had to like, do me and my mom do our own training. I found that like sometimes in girls' sports, like the wrong narratives can surround it, like being exceptionally competitive in sport within women can be misplaced as like maybe bitchiness or stuff like that, whereas men can be, as competitive as they want to be. But then when it's women being competitive, it's like, oh, it's they're being bitchy or they're being that, whereas they're not really like able to be unapologetically just competitive. Like there's always this like negative narrative that surrounds it. So that can be difficult. But I find with like athletics and being a woman, that doing sprinting and stuff like that is one of the only ways that I can really express myself. Like I can be aggressive, I can be whatever I want to be, and I can express that through like sprinting. If I hadn't done athletics, I don't know where I would have ended up. I think I would have had a very different life. But I still deal with like comments that can be quite condescending. But I just I just channel that into my training and prove people wrong. Hi, my name is Molly Scott. You're listening to Her Life, Her Style, Her Sport.
Kellie, it's great to have you on the Her Sport show. This is the first episode, so it's really exciting to have you on.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
So tell us what it's been like for you since you returned home from Tokyo.
It's been a whirlwind. Like there's a lot been going on in my own life personally. So it's been crazy, but it's been very enjoyable. I'm enjoying every moment of it.
You've been doing lots. We've definitely seen you on the Late Late Show. There was a bit of an adventure at Ryan Tubridy in a car and also a wedding. So you've certainly been busy.
Yeah. Been busy. The Late Late has been great. It's been really great. And yeah, just enjoying it and taking it each day as it comes, really, but also keeping my feet well and firmly planted on the ground.
Absolutely. In terms of the new relationship, the new partnership with Dublin City Council, tell us a little bit about that.
So myself and Ellen Keane have partnered up with Dublin City Council, and we're basically just trying to promote like better physical and well-being, and that's throughout the whole Dublin City. You know, I've been involved with the North East Inner City for a number of years now, and I've always kind of done classes, like obviously not in the last number of years because I've been trying to get off to the Olympics and so on, but previously I would have done classes and with people from around my community, and throughout COVID I was doing a little bit as well with some of the older women from around. And yeah, it's just something that I'm very passionate about, is trying to get people, I'm not going to say fit, but I'm trying to get people moving, trying to get people active, because once people are active and they're moving, then they start to feel good and they start to feel better about themselves. Like, you're releasing all those good endorphins, and you know, you never do a session or a walk or anything like that and feel crap after it. You know, you normally always feel good after. So that's what I'm trying to encourage, and myself and Ellen are going to be trying to promote that a bit more across the city. Like at the moment, like Dublin City Council have 21 sports officers across the city, you know, and they're obviously trying to promote it as well, like on their end, and clubs, if they need them, should reach out to them. And we've 2 disability and inclusion officers as well with the council. So it's really, really good, and it's progressing all the time. So I suppose just myself and Ellen being involved is we're just trying to do our bit and help as much as we can, really.
And they do say that you never really regret the workouts or those walks or anything that you do, but you regret the ones sometimes that you don't. In terms of our community, I know from both your perspective and from Ellen's perspective, like you've had huge support from your communities, and talk to us a bit about the importance of that and representing your community.
Like I've always, like, I love my community. I'm moving back into where I'm from. It's a massive part of who I am. It's a massive part of how I got to where I got, where I am, where I got to where I am. I've built great resilience and compassion from my community, you know, and that really shows in the person that I am today. And if I didn't have that community, I don't think I'd be sitting here where I am, you know. And they're just very encouraging, and that's with anybody who's into doing something, whether it's sport or acting or singing, and you know, they really rally behind their own, and that means a lot to me, you know. And they're real people, you know. They're not just bandwagoners who jump on the bandwagon when someone is doing well. They're there for you, like in the highs, and they're there for you in the lows, because you know, it's when you hit the lows, it's very hard. Like, you get a lot of people there for you in the highs, but when you hit the lows, there's not so many people there, but there's always people from the community who are there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was certainly some homecoming they gave you when you returned from Tokyo. In terms of being a role model, you know, obviously there's, you know, the next generation that is to come, but with this initiative at Dublin City Council, you're trying to get people from all ages and all backgrounds to get involved. So how important is it to you to represent and be a role model?
I never thought I'd be in this position, to be very honest with you. I never thought I'd be a role model, but now that I am, like, now that I know I have got a little bit of influence over people, I embrace that, and I try to be the best role model that I can be, because I know that you're in the public eye, and you got to be very, very careful with what you say and what you do, you know. You have to think before you act and react, and I'm delighted that I'm in this position. And what I love is that, like, I might encourage one little boy or girl to take up the gloves or to get into a running club or something, and by me encouraging them, they're going into their school or they're hanging out with their friends, and their friends are seeing what they're doing, and they're like, oh Jesus, I might get into that. So they're also role models then to their friends, you know. So it's a knock-on spiral effect, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, we've certainly seen all the news, and there's been a lot of interest in boxing with all the success from yourself, from Katie Taylor, and then obviously most recently Amy Broadhurst and Lisa O'Rourke. Have you caught up with any of the athletes since their returns with such success?
I haven't like properly caught up with them, but I text them, and that like straight after their fights. That's normally what we all do. We just text each other straight away. And then when they returned home and they were in the airport, I went out to greet them at the airport, but also to greet the rest of the girls who were on the team as well, you know, because they had great performances out there. I stood way back out of the media though, because it's not my time, it's their time, and I didn't want to be jumping in and, you know, robbing the limelight, because it's their time, and they deserve to enjoy it, really, you know. But overall, as a whole team, they perform. Like the performance of all the girls out there was absolutely fantastic. They were absolutely brilliant, and some of them just like missed out on medals, like very, very, very on the narrowest of margins, like, and it was heartbreaking watching those girls, because I know what they've done, and I know how hard they do, and the commitment and sacrifices that they give. But I do also know that their time will come, and they know that too. You know, they know that too, and they'll just keep tipping away and keep knocking on that door, and eventually it will happen, you know. But for the other two girls to come away with two new world champions, it's fantastic.
Yeah, doubled the world championships for female boxing in Ireland anyway, which is unbelievable. But as you said, the other athletes that were competing, I think it was second overall for the Irish women in terms of the medal table and the results. So very, very well done to them. In terms of what's next for you, how's everything going, and when's your next big competition coming up?
Next for me, like, I'm hoping that there'll be something before October, like with multi-nations or something like that, but I really don't know at the moment. But the next big thing will be the European Championships, I think, in October. They haven't been announced, but I've heard they're October. So I'm going to be aiming for the Europeans, but I'm hoping that we will have like a small multi-nation tournament before then or something, you know, just to get me back up and get me going again, get rid of the ring rust. And to make weight again, you know, like I need to make weight again. I'm not saying I want to or I like
it. Enjoying not having to, I'm sure.
Exactly, yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Kellie, for catching up with us, and best of luck with the work with Dublin City Council. We'll be all watching out for it. Thanks again for taking the time.
Thanks a million. Thank you.
Great to catch up with Kellie as always. Here's a flavour of what's to come in sport this week. In round 3 of the Camogie Championship, Clare will take on Wexford, Dublin versus Cork, and Tipperary against Waterford. In the Women's National League, we'll see Sligo Rovers take on Wexford Youth, Treaty United versus DLR Waves, Shelbourne versus Galway, Peamount United versus Cork City, and Athlone Town versus Bohemians. In golf, at the US Women's Open, Stephanie Meadow tees off round 1 at 1:14 local time. Leona Maguire tees off round 1 at 2:09 local time. Thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of the Her Sport Show. A reminder that you can tune in to watch this episode and every episode on the Her Sport YouTube channel and our social channels, or listen to it on every podcast app. Keep involved in the conversation on all things women's sport by connecting with us on our social channels, on the podcast, and also on our YouTube channel. We'll see you again soon.
The Her Sport Show, live every Wednesday on YouTube and every podcast app.